Nigeria's Debt Management Office disclosed that the federal government will offer 150 billion naira in bonds for subscription in July. Breakdown comprised 3 bonds worth 50 billion each, 10-year reopening bond at 13.9% due February 2028, 20-year reopening 12.4% due March 2036, 30-year reopening 12.98 due March 2050. To manufacturing, between January 2017 and March 2021, Nigeria spent 40.9 trillion naira on the importation of manufactured goods. It earned only 4.2 trillion on the export of manufactured goods within the same period. These, according to the data obtained from the Foreign Trade Report of the National Bureau of Statistics. In review period, total value of imports 66.4 trillion, total value of exports 67.3. Manufactured goods dominated the import bill, but contributed little to the export bill of Africa's largest economy. Joining us to discuss further, Oladipo Ajayi, who is the head of fixed income at Chapel Hill Denham. Oladipo, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, bro.
What do you make of these manufacturing numbers that we're seeing from the NBS?
I think if I say I'm actually not surprised, it will be as if because if you look at that data, you can now see the reasons why unemployment is rising. You can see the reason why there's pressure on FX. You can see the reason why things look as if they are not really working. Because if you as a country, if all you can do in terms of the manufactured product is like you can only export like 4.2 trillion, and you were able to import close to about 41 trillion. That's so massive. So it's just like what you've been able to produce and export is just about 10% of what you are importing as a finished product. I think we need to look at this area. This tells you why most things are not actually working in Nigeria and why we need to actually work around it to change things as soon as possible.
And what will it take, I mean, to improve what we earn from manufacturing exports?
I think we have to, if we have to look back to other countries that have done it in the past, we've seen China industrialization. And I think we need to borrow something from that angle. If you look at it critically, many things are not working in the country. Security issues are there, infrastructural deficits are there, and there are whole lots of other things like SMEs cannot approach the financial institutions to access funds so easily. So those are things that is actually impacting negatively on the economy. And at the same time, people cannot access funds at a very cheap rate. So those things are things, and at the end of the day, what it will mean is that you will not be able to compete with foreign producers. And again, we also have this attitude to foreign manufactured products. Because recently I was looking at 2 products. I was looking at poundo yam. I'm looking at Olaola and Ayola, and I found that Olaola is actually imported poundo yam.
Wow.
And in my mind, like, I'm sure they will first of all import the yam, reproduce the yam, process it, and export the product back to Nigeria. So we need to look beyond exporting raw material into exporting finished products. Why are we exporting cocoa? Why not chocolate? Why not chocolate drinks? Why are we exporting yam? Why not finished product of that? So those are the reasons, and those are the reasons why we are seeing such numbers from NBS.
These numbers, as you said, they've been lopsided for years. It's now 2021. How much longer do we continue to have this conversation? How long would it take to reverse the figures that we're seeing?
I just feel that it's whenever we're ready to be deliberate over the issue, I think at that point shows that we are seriously ready to actually turn things around. And like I mentioned, some of the problems that are actually affecting that industry. And like I said, until we start looking at a change around it. For example, how many FDIs want to come to Nigeria to come and situate their business here? Because they are looking at security challenges, they are looking at currency crisis, they are looking at every other thing. So it looks like an harsh environment where business will not thrive. You understand? So we need to make the economy conducive for people to want to bring their funds, for people to want to come and invest. It's at that point that we show that we are ready to actually do something. Look at Toyota. They've gone to Ghana to situate a plant. Why Ghana? Why not Nigeria? You understand? Those are some of the things that we need to look at. And one of the reasons why most people are actually picking other African countries is because they feel that there's a lot of issues that we need to actually work on to actually make the environment conducive for them to actually bring their funds.
And there's an FX impact here, surely, yeah?
Exactly. If let's just look at manufactured products only. What you've been able to do from 2017 to 2021 is that you've been able to export 4.2 trillion and import 40.9 trillion. The net is about 35, 36 trillion. So tell me, how do you fund 36 trillion? You're going to fund that with FX. And that tells you exactly the reason why we are seeing that movement from the 2016, because FX has moved from in 2015, 2016, around 169 to 199, and let's say from 200, let's say 200 thereabout, to where we are today. It's moved close to about 200, about 150%. You know, further increase from that, that's about 250 total. So if you look at that, you can see that there is serious correlation between this figure and exactly what is happening in the FX space. So if we really want to actually bring normality to the economy, we need to work around these things. Because by not doing that, and I think that's one of the reasons why the government is just trying to, but I think their policy is just cherry picking things. You need to be deliberate about it. You can't just say, oh, you are removing this number of products from the FX list. You understand? You have to look at it critically. So if you are doing that, so what are you doing to other people that are producing locally to actually help them to actually be able to produce to capacity, to be able to export, not beyond, let us go beyond what we can produce to consume in Nigeria. Let's look at what can we produce to export to other countries. And that's one of the reasons why I still don't understand why we are laid back on AFTA. We need to, yeah, I'm telling you, we need to be deliberate about things like this because Africa is our market. We are still very much respected in Africa. So we have that market here. If we can take advantage of that, that will help the data.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Illustrative, in-depth. Let's talk bonds. The bond auction July from the DMO, Debt Management Office. What kind of appetite are you expecting from this?
Currently, the appetite is going to be very high. And one of the reasons is that on Thursday, we're expecting maturity from the 2021 bond. Maturity is about 560 billion, then the coupon on the maturities. So everything totaling about 601 billion was you're expecting in the system on Thursday. And the auction is just coming maybe like 4 days later, maybe another 2 working days later, you understand? And all that is on the calendar is 150 billion. So imagine you're having inflow of about 600 billion and all you're taking is about 150 billion. It tells you that the appetite is actually very high for the auction. So I think the auction will be extremely oversubscribed.
And so, well, if that's the case, then that would mean inflation isn't much of a concern?
Yeah, you know, one thing about inflation currently is that we feel that the base year effect is already kicking in.
Yes.
You understand? So analysts are looking at the fact that there's every likelihood that we might also see further drop in inflation, maybe by another 20 to 25 basis points in the month of course, we're expecting the data on Thursday. Yeah. So if that's so true, of course, it will not be so much a concern to the auction.
Okay. And what's your outlook, I guess, on the yield trajectory for sovereign bonds?
Yeah, for now, in the short term, we feel that yield will still go there a bit. And our decisions, our view is premised on the fact of the level of liquidity that's maturing this month into the system. Totality, what we're expecting is over $1 trillion into the system, and that will actually spur demand for bonds. And the month of August, we don't expect anything extraordinary to actually push yield up. And September, there are coupons that's coming in. But one thing is that in the long run, and if you want to look at from October, so the currently approved supplementary budget, there's deficits on it. So we think that that would actually be time. Because if you look at the current calendar is just 450 billion.
Yeah.
So we don't think that's enough to actually cater for that, and we don't think they actually factor that into the calendar for the quarter. So we think that might actually be further down the line, maybe in the last quarter of the year. So that shows that DMO might be more aggressive at that particular point in time. So if they're actually more aggressive at that particular point in time, you expect the yield to actually go nuts.
Fantastic stuff. Oladipo Ajayi, Head of Fixed Income at Chapel Hill Denham. Thank you so much for taking us through manufacturing numbers and the bond auction from the DMO. Appreciate your insights.